As I'm recording this, the Trump administration is preparing to deploy thousands more National Guard troops to American cities. And today I want to talk about the actual numbers, the raw cost of these military operations versus what we could accomplish with housing and community building. We're talking about spending nearly $1.6 million a day to deploy 3,000 National Guard troops to Chicago, according to an analysis by Hannah Homestead of the National Priorities Project. Meanwhile, housing all of Chicago's unhoused people would cost about $383,000 a day, less than a quarter the cost of military occupation. In LA and Washington, D.C., the numbers break down like this. Trump's troop deployment in Washington is costing more than $1 million per day for around 2,100 Guard members. In Los Angeles, the estimated cost for deploying 2,000 Guard members and 700 Marines was $134 million, according to the Pentagon. Governor Newsom revealed this week that the LA deployment has so far cost $118 million and amounts to millions of taxpayer dollars down the drain. That $118 million breaks down to $71 million for food and basic necessities, $37 million in payroll, over $4 million in logistics supplies, $3.5 million in travel, and $1.5 million for demobilization. And what were these highly trained military personnel actually doing? According to reports from The Intercept, National Guard troops were picking up 500 bags of trash, removing graffiti, and raking leaves. Now, it's easy to point fingers at the Trump administration, but they're not alone in squandering funds. LA has a long history of failed programs and resource misallocation that shows this problem runs deeper than one administration. Los Angeles is home to the largest number of unhoused veterans in the U.S., nearly 3,400 according to the latest count. Yet the city sits on enough housing vouchers to house every single one of them. An average of 6 unhoused people die every day on LA streets, while more than 4,000 housing vouchers remain stuck in bureaucratic limbo. Doug Smith's reporting in the LA Times revealed that units built expressly for veterans can stay vacant for a year or more. The county's 11 housing agencies that received vouchers through the federal HUD-VASH program have obtained these leases for only 59% of them. That's 20 percentage points below the national average. Monica Mejia, president of the East LA Community Corp, told the Times her organization lost $190,000 in revenue while 14 units sat vacant for a year. One veteran just moved into a unit that had been vacant since December, but 13 veteran units remain empty. And I don't know if you would call this a cruel irony, but many of the troops being deployed are veterans themselves, being asked to violate the very Constitution they swore to protect. One National Guard recruiter who spoke to Mother Jones said the DC mission had deterred potential recruits and pushed soldiers to their breaking points. I think people have hit their limit, he said. This is an encroachment on everything we signed up for, and it feels like a violation. They just see us as little toy soldiers to put on the street, to show some muscle. And it's not just morally destructive. It can be financially devastating for these service members. He explained, I'm missing work for the Army because the state ran out of money, because they decided to send military police to D.C. Catherine Kosminski, an expert in military personnel policy at the Center for New American Security, explained to the War Horse how these deployments destroy lives. Sometimes the state is out of money to front that, and they are waiting on the federal reimbursement. Guardsmen get taken care of in the long run, but that does not do you any good if you defaulted on your mortgage that month because you didn't get paid in time. Last Tuesday, U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer ruled that Trump's deployment of troops to Los Angeles was illegal under the Posse Comitatus Act. He stated Congress spoke clearly in 1878 when it passed the Posse Comitatus Act, prohibiting the use of U.S. military to execute domestic law. Yet there was no rebellion, nor was civilian law enforcement unable to respond to the protests and enforce the law. These deployments aren't just wasting money, they're actually destroying the communities they claim to protect. In Chicago, the threats alone are already causing damage. Sam Toya, CEO of the Illinois Restaurant Association, told Axios, the presence of the National Guard will disrupt restaurant operations and create unnecessary fear among Chicago diners. The deployment will adversely affect consumer confidence and reduce business levels. The Mexican Independence Day celebration, El Grito Chicago, was postponed out of fear. Event organizer Germán Gonzalez said due to heightened political tensions, holding the event was a risk we are not willing to take. But the most devastating impact is on immigrant families. In Chicago's Pilsen neighborhood, Elias Cepeda has organized volunteers to patrol around 11 elementary schools watching for ICE agents. He told WBEZ, the idea of patrolling is to be more proactive. Residents have to organize their own protection because federal agents are targeting families during school pickup and drop-off. Robert Pape, a professor at the University of Chicago who studies political violence, surveyed over 1,100 Chicago residents and found that 60% disapprove of Trump's immigration enforcement. And 28% said they would attend a protest against deportation efforts even if it became violent. As Pape warned, Chicago will be the third major American city governed by members of Trump's political opposition to be subjected this year to the presence of military force. Other blue cities and states may reasonably fear that they will be next. Trump is threatening to radicalize our nation's politics in a way we have not seen in our lifetimes. Now here's what gets me. We know what works when resources are properly directed toward housing and community building. Los Angeles has shown remarkable success when it focuses on housing. In fiscal year 2024, we housed 1,854 veterans, more than any other American city, for the third year in a row. According to HUD data, homelessness among veterans dropped 23% year over year in Los Angeles County. And of all the veterans housed in fiscal year 2024, nearly 93% of them have stayed housed. So, what could we do with the millions squandered on enforcement? Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson noted this week that the $134 million spent on the LA military deployment could have been used to fund 30,000 more youth jobs, reopen every city mental health clinic, expand mental health crisis teams citywide, and double Chicago's number of violence interrupters. This isn't just about budgets, it's about values. As Hannah Homestead told The Intercept, expanding the military domestically to occupy American cities and suppress internal dissent is textbook authoritarianism. It is not a coincidence that the MAGA coalition is targeting Democrat-run cities like LA, DC, and Chicago with black leadership. Dozens of Chicago pastors published an open letter saying the real violence in Chicago, like real violence across America, is not the violence of the streets, but the violence of policy. Underfunded schools, disappearing jobs, healthcare deserts, food apartheid, and a criminal justice system that treats poverty like a capital offense. Trump isn't just wasting money on military occupations, he's actively trying to dismantle the programs that actually work. Trump's executive order, ending crime and disorder on America's streets, calls on federal agencies to stop supporting Housing First programs. These are evidence-based approaches that have been successful for over 2 decades under both Republican and Democratic administrations. As the National Alliance to End Homelessness wrote, this change will upend the progress that has been made across the country. The executive order represents a significant step back to a time when programs were rigid, with high barriers to housing that failed to meet people where they were. If there's an upside to any of this, it's that communities are organizing to protect themselves and build the solutions their governments won't provide. Rapid response networks exist across Chicago neighborhoods. Hyperlocal groups like the Pilsen Rapid Response that mobilize quickly when ICE is spotted. The goal is getting as many people to where agents have been spotted as fast as possible. Governor J.B. Pritzker has been encouraging residents to take out their phones and record what's happening, and he said part of their nefarious plan is begin with ICE, cause mayhem on the ground, and by doing that, say that there's a need for military troops on the ground to protect ICE. Veteran advocacy groups are calling on National Guard members to refuse unlawful orders. Brad Thompson of the National Lawyers Guild's Military Law Task Force said service members signed up to uphold the Constitution. Service members did not sign up to become pawns for a president trying to score political points against the opposing party. The mathematics of this moral equation couldn't be simpler. We can continue spending millions to militarize our cities and hunt immigrants while veterans sleep in the streets. Or we can redirect those resources toward housing, community building, and actually solving problems. We have the capacity. The military deployments prove we can mobilize enormous resources rapidly when we choose to. We have the evidence of what works. Housing first programs, community-based solutions, and direct investment in affordable housing. What we need is the moral courage to make the right choice. When communities organize to protect each other, when veterans refuse unlawful orders, when residents document what's happening in their neighborhoods, that's where real change begins. The systems stacked against us are powerful, but we have something more powerful. We have each other. Our collective voices, our willingness to show up for our neighbors, our refusal to let fear divide us, that's our greatest hope. There is no cavalry coming. There are no heroes waiting to fight in our place. It's us. It's always been us. And we are enough. Thank you. If you like this, please click subscribe. You can find us on our free Substack and Instagram and Blue Sky. And if you have any comments or questions, please add them below so we can respond to you. And thanks so much.